Welcome to this week's Scroll Report. I'm Alex Kronos, and if you ever felt like the cost of your existence was being weighed against, the price of an insurance premium, well, you were probably auditioning for a role at the biggest streaming giant. Today, we are wading into what I can only describe as a corporate document designed by a deeply cynical CFO, someone who decided that the human body should function as both high art and a cost-saving measure. This is urgent, this is confidential, and frankly, it's a terrifying blueprint for the future of entertainment labor. We are diving deep into a recently obtained internal document. The title is The Netflix Audition Mandate, Stunts and Soliloquies. And this document, it's stamped eyes only, Ted Sarandos plus level 5 executives. It radically changes how performers will secure roles. It's blending extreme physical risk with classical theatrical requirements. Joining me to unpack this monumental shift in Hollywood hiring practices, and someone I have to say uniquely qualified to assess the intersection of dramatic arts and guaranteed physical catastrophe, is Dr. Meltamedi Risk Assessment, Chief Thespian of Applied Acrobatics. Thank you for stepping out of the theoretical fire zone to be with us.
It is my professional duty. This memo represents not just a new hiring strategy, but a fundamental reassessment of the actor as a rapidly depreciating, yet, initially hyper-efficient asset. They are forcing the talent to justify their entire future value chain in a single high-stakes moment.
A moment of what? Coordinated distress.
Oh,
both intellectual and physical.
exactly. Our mission today is to meticulously understand the cold calculus behind this administrative madness.
Absolutely. We need to dissect this thing. The mission is clear.
Yeah.
Unpack the specifics of this mandate, which demands that every performer becomes a human multi-tool.
A Renaissance person of pain and poetry.
Yes. It's the ultimate filtering mechanism for talent, designed to identify the very few who can survive the corporate mandate for maximum efficiency. Okay, let's unpack this mandate. We have to start with the contractual core, Section 1.1, because it's the most shocking part. Beginning next month, according to this leak, actors must be contractually obligated to perform all their own stunts.
Yes.
Not just the simple falls or the quick sprints, all of them.
Precisely. And that eliminates the need for an entire category of specialized professional.
The stunt double.
Gone. For any roles secured under this new mandate, we are talking about actors essentially signing a blanket waiver for specialized safety support right from the get-go.
And what's so disturbing is the deliberate breadth of the required activities.
Oh, absolutely.
The scope is alarming. It's clearly designed to cover every possible high-cost scenario. The document lists high-speed chases, pyrotechnics, sequences, and then, as you mentioned, that chillingly broad catch-all phrase.
Any physical feat deemed narratively essential by the showrunner.
That phrase right there.
Yeah.
Narratively essential. That is where the legal exposure for the performer it reaches maximum velocity.
And what's fascinating here from a risk management perspective is the intentional ambiguity.
Right.
Narratively essential provides maximum creative flexibility for the production team, but it simultaneously maximizes the personal liability and physical risk for the actor.
So the creative team holds absolute subjective power.
Absolute. If the script calls for a sudden, unexpected 40-foot vertical drop onto a moving vehicle because it serves the climax, the auditioning actor, under this new contract, must execute it, or they lose the part.
And there's no appeal.
No appeal based on professional specialization or safety? None.
And crucially, this mandate isn't just a physical gauntlet. If it were, it would just be an extended stunt casting call. They introduced the second pillar, the non-physical yet equally taxing requirement.
Delivering a spontaneous, unscripted emotional breakdown.
The requirement of the soul layered right on top of the risk to the body.
This juxtaposition is the satirical genius or perhaps the HR horror of the design.
Yes.
They are demanding immediate, raw, internal control. And that completely eliminates the luxury of, say, method preparation or a sustained emotional buildup.
It has to be immediate.
Immediate, raw, demonstrably authentic, and most tellingly unscripted. You have to switch instantaneously from surviving external chaos to displaying internal collapse. It's emotional whiplash, but administered as a job requirement.
So, just to summarize the demands here, survive a high-speed chase.
Navigate a burning set.
And then, without any warning, switch to weeping convincingly over, a philosophical realization, a misplaced prop.
And all of this is done for one simple reason, right?
Just save money. Which brings us to 1.2, the logic of the lean operating model. What is the explicit, cold, hard rationale in the memo?
Oh, the justification is purely financial. And it's documented with astonishing specificity. It's all aimed at satisfying those level 5 executives who oversee the macro budgetary health of the corporation.
Right.
The mandate explicitly cites the need to mitigate escalating expenditures on CGI doubles and method acting coaches.
So they're treating specialized human labor, the people needed for safety, the doubles, and for high-quality emotional performance, the coaches.
Mm.
They're treating them as an unnecessary overhead.
An overhead that can be consolidated into a single worker.
And we should define who we're talking about. When the memo says level 5 executives, they aren't talking about creative directors.
Not at all.
These are the highest tier of corporate management. The ones whose only metric is subscriber growth and quarterly cost efficiency. They are the audience for this kind of bold reimagining.
Absolutely. And the true driver, the specific, highly illustrative financial comparison that pushed this whole paradigm shift, is the quote that's integrated directly into the document. It's a quote that should be etched onto the tombstone of Hollywood labor negotiations.
Here's where it gets really interesting, and we have to quote this verbatim because it just shows the level of economic panic driving the system. The document claims, factually, a single Tom Cruise insurance rider now costs more than the entire budget of The Gray Man 2.
The entire budget.
The entire budget. I mean, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this detail reveals a systemic fear.
It does. Netflix is essentially stating that the cost of insuring one major global star who performs their own death-defying stunts.
The very stunts that generate high-value, high-impact content.
Right. That cost is so astronomical that it destabilizes the entire financial plan for a major franchise sequel.
So the star, in this context, becomes an unmanageable liability.
Exactly.
This isn't just about saving $10,000 on a stunt coordinator. This is a profound macroeconomic pivot disguised as an acting mandate. They're reacting to the runaway cost of ensuring celebrity authenticity.
And the solution, in the eyes of the level 5 executives, is to create a market where star-level skill is mandatory, but star-level liability is non-existent.
My analysis is that this policy, described by the memo as a bold reimagining of cost efficiency in entertainment,
is really just thinly veiled corporate speak for successful systematic risk transference.
transferring risk.
They're transferring the entirety of the financial risk, the insurance costs, the responsibility for physical integrity, the need for specialized safety personnel, entirely from the insurer and the studio to the talent pool.
So the financial incentive is crystal clear. If every actor is required to be their own stunt double, they can eliminate those massive insurance premiums.
Yes.
The actors are essentially becoming independent contractors who are fully liable for their own professional performance, regardless of physical damage.
And that is the crucial ethical implication here. It fundamentally changes the employer-employee relationship structure.
How so?
Well, instead of the studio protecting the asset, the actor, through insurance and safety teams, the actor must now protect the studio from liability by internalizing all that risk. They are betting that the desperation for employment will override the actor's instinct for self-preservation.
So it turns the human artist into a depreciable asset.
A depreciable asset whose value is defined by their willingness to sustain damage without claiming any external relief.
This sounds less like an audition process and more like a detailed corporate liability evasion strategy.
It is.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 1.3, the legal and reporting loophole. This is perhaps the most cynical piece of brilliance in the entire document.
The administrative strategy to make sure all these new cost savings aren't immediately eroded by litigation or, union intervention.
This is the administrative finish line.
It codifies the silence around the mandate's physical costs.
This specific instruction is just chilling. The rule is that all audition-related injuries must be disclosed only to HR and not, under any circumstances, to SAG-AFTRA.
And that is a surgical strike against industry oversight and collective bargaining.
Right. We have to remember what SAG-AFTRA is.
It's the union. It's responsible for setting minimum safety standards, ensuring fair working conditions, intervening on behalf of injured performers.
But by funneling all reports exclusively through HR, an internal employer-side administrative body.
They completely bypass the protective mechanisms established by the Guild.
Why is this distinction so important for you listening?
Because HR exists to protect the corporation, not the individual worker, especially not when a lawsuit is imminent.
So reporting an injury to HR is reporting to the party responsible for the hazardous condition in the first place.
Exactly. Reporting it to SAG-AFTRA is reporting it to a neutral collective body tasked with preventing future injury and ensuring accountability.
So this suggests a new era of what you could only call self-managed risk assessment for hopefuls.
It does. They are encouraging actors who are desperate for a role to keep quiet about a broken ankle, a mild concussion, or a third-degree burn sustained during the audition.
And by doing that, they're normalizing hazardous working conditions outside the purview of any union scrutiny.
It effectively creates a silent shadow labor force. A performer knows that reporting an injury could jeopardize their future standing, or worse, expose the corporation to union action.
Which could scuttle the whole mandate.
The cynical brilliance here isn't that they're demanding the stunt. It's that they're ensuring nobody outside their internal ecosystem knows the true human cost of that stunt.
So the core takeaway from this first part is stark. Financial efficiency, driven by the astronomical cost of ensuring star power, now fundamentally outweighs professional safety.
And the actor is now the consolidated first line of defense against ballooning studio budgets and union interference.
If the financial logic is eliminating the stunt department, the question becomes, what standard of performer do they actually want? Which brings us smoothly to segment 2, where the financial cruelty meets high art absurdity. We've covered the stunts and the spontaneous breakdowns, but section 2.1 focuses on the Shakespearean standard.
Right.
Actors must perform a full-length Shakespearean monologue immediately after their stunt work.
This is where the cognitive dissonance really reaches its peak. You have to ask, why? Why integrate the precision, history, and intellectual rigor of Shakespeare into a process that involves high-velocity chases and pyrotechnics?
And improvised Demogorgon simulations, which we'll get to.
Which we will get to.
The memo's stated purpose is explicitly to assess versatility under duress. The implicit and wildly entertaining assumption is that surviving a high-speed chase somehow prepares your emotional and intellectual capacity for iambic pentameter.
Let's talk about the physiological conflict here, because this is what makes the mandate truly impossible. A high-stakes physical confrontation triggers the sympathetic nervous system. It's fight or flight.
Right, adrenaline.
Adrenaline floods the system, your breath becomes shallow and rapid, blood flow is diverted to the large muscle groups you need for survival. To then immediately pivot to articulating the nuanced existential dread of Hamlet, which demands controlled breath, precise vocal delivery, the recall of complex mental architecture.
You have to shut down that primal survival mechanism instantly.
Instantly. It demands a degree of cognitive control that is, it's rarely seen outside of those trained for literal crisis management, like special forces operators, not dramatic artists.
So the duress here is a literal life or death situation, but they're demanding intellectual clarity and verbal artistry in the immediate aftermath.
The ability to transition from a physical state of pure primal survival to an intellectual state of philosophical contemplation while maintaining perfect breath control and vocal texture, that is what they are attempting to quantify as versatility.
It's an insane metric.
Completely insane.
And what's fascinating is the attempt to cloak this whole cost-saving measure in artistic legitimacy, specifically through the discussion around Juilliard's dubious endorsement.
Yes, the source material notes a surprising and subsequently retracted consultation with the Juilliard School's experimental theater division.
The consultation itself suggests an attempt by Netflix to, co-opt high artistic authority to justify extreme safety compromises.
That's exactly it. By name-dropping Juilliard's experimental division, which is known for pushing boundaries, they hope to lend some gravitas to a policy that's rooted in pure cost-cutting.
And the alleged endorsement, which was quickly pulled, it championed the policy as a return to the raw, unmediated artistry of the Renaissance stage. I have to press you on this. What did the Renaissance stage really mean? Because I'm almost certain it did not involve actors having to survive a controlled explosion before delivering Rosalind's lines.
The comparison is historically bankrupt, but it's philosophically seductive.
How so?
Yes, the Renaissance stage was raw and unmediated in the sense that they lacked modern technology. No complex lighting, minimal sets, a heavy reliance on the actor's sheer vocal projection and physical presence.
So that required great artistry.
Absolutely. However, it did not involve mandatory falls from great heights or the deliberate introduction of pyrotechnics to test an actor's commitment.
So they're conflating physical hardship and a lack of modern safety nets with authenticity.
Precisely. They want the actor to risk real bodily harm to demonstrate unmediated artistry, echoing the romanticized yet often dangerous conditions of early theater. But without the corresponding lack of modern legal expectation, it's an incredibly selective historical appropriation.
All designed to make a purely financial decision sound like an artistic revolution.
That's it, claiming historical precedent for present-day insurance avoidance.
Now let's move to Section 2.2, Analyzing versatility under duress. We've established the three demands: Shakespeare, the spontaneous emotional collapse, and the peak stunt conditioning.
The complexity lies in managing these disparate skill sets simultaneously.
Right.
You have the meticulous textual preparation required for Shakespeare, which is intellectual and analytical. You contrast this with the demand for a spontaneous, unscripted, emotional collapse, which requires immediate, raw vulnerability and psychological accessibility.
And overlaying both of those.
Is the peak physical conditioning and risk management required for high-velocity stunts?
So the preparation for this single audition transforms the actor from a specialist in emotional interpretation into a human multi-tool.
You require mastery of classical texts, immediate emotional volatility, and peak physical conditioning, all in one seamless sitting.
It's the ultimate triple threat audition, redefined not for Broadway, but for the streaming era.
And the goal isn't merely to verify the actor possesses these things, it's to see if they can maintain intellectual, emotional, and physical control simultaneously under artificially created conditions of extreme stress.
It measures psychological bandwidth under environmental pressure, a metric that's entirely new to casting. So what does this all mean for the audience member who might be considering entering this field? Or for current aspiring actors? I want you to imagine preparing for this triple threat audition. Just think of the extreme knowledge and physical training required for a single callback.
The training landscape completely shifts. Traditional acting schools become, well, obsolete. They're replaced by specialized academies combining competitive parkour, classical dramaturgy, and military-style trauma simulation.
So the financial barrier to entry for training alone has just skyrocketed.
Absolutely. Because you must maintain a repertoire of several full Shakespearean monologues, be able to weep on command in response to a surprise prompt, and be able to execute precision driving or pyrotechnic handling.
This mandate basically reserves roles for a highly specialized, self-funding elite who can absorb the enormous training costs.
It's no longer about finding the most empathetic or vocally skilled actor. It's about finding the person who is psychologically and physically rigid enough to execute three separate high-stakes tasks without failure, injury, or emotional leakage.
That is the definition of versatility under duress in this new paradigm.
That's it.
All right, this is where the theoretical cruelty becomes practical. And quite frankly, an absurd anecdote. We're moving to segment 3, the pilot program. The document confirms that this new policy was pilot tested during the audition process for Stranger Things Season 5.
Which, from a corporate testing standpoint, is the logical choice.
Why that show?
Stranger Things is a massive tentpole franchise. It's heavy on stunts, high emotion, and creature effects. It's the perfect high-visibility crucible for testing the stunts and soliloquies mandate.
So if it works here, guaranteeing high performance under a low budget?
It can be applied to 80% of their content slate.
Okay, the Demogorgon Challenge. This is pure, unadulterated, cost-cutting absurdity. To keep costs low, even in the pilot testing phase, hopefuls were asked to recreate the Demogorgon attack scene using only office furniture.
This is the perfect operationalization of financial efficiency. They need to test the actors' physical agility, their sense of threat, and their ability to generate believable terror without paying for a realistic set or a fully realized animatronic Demogorgon.
And using office furniture tests not only physicality,
but also imagination and commitment to the reality of the scene, regardless of the cheap improvised context.
I have to pause on that. What kind of office furniture would pose the biggest Demogorgon threat? A filing cabinet as a monstrous leg.
Or maybe an ergonomic chair with its many wheels as a swarm of smaller scuttling monsters.
The real threat, I suppose.
The real threat is the unexpected nature of the inanimate object. An actor's commitment is measured by their willingness to treat a simple lateral filing cabinet as a ravenous interdimensional predator.
So did they react with genuine fight-or-flight terror to a cheap desk lamp?
That is what the casting directors are measuring. Their commitment must overcome the poverty of the set dressing.
That sets the scene for the immediate transition required. Right after their dramatic, furniture-based creature feature, they had to perform Hamlet's to be or not to be soliloquy.
The adrenaline dump from fighting a swivel chair must instantaneously become profound existential contemplation.
It's an immediate shift from visceral survival horror, the Demogorgon, to abstract existential philosophy Hamlet.
The body is telling the actor to flee or fight, but the mind must switch instantly to articulating the fundamental, nuanced question of life and death entirely divorced from the immediate threat they just faced.
But the cruelty doesn't stop there. There's a crucial stunt duress modifier attached to this.
Of course there
The
is.
soliloquy had to be performed while suspended from a harness.
The harness is the physical manifestation of the duress. It challenges breath control, which is essential for iambic pentameter,
And it challenges posture, focus, physical discomfort.
all while demanding peak vocal performance of one of the most intellectually demanding speeches in the English language. You are literally hanging between two realities: physical safety and artistic success. Testing skill when the body is actively protesting the performance.
The internal systems are in chaos, yet the external delivery must be flawless. Okay, let's analyze the leaked performance review from this specific session. We have to treat it, as the source does, like a standard HR document. This is segment 3.2, Existential Despair Meets Athletics. These metrics are the ultimate expression of the mandate's absurdity.
These performance metrics are a goldmine of bizarre corporate assessment. We have the specific positive metric, which praised one actor's adept transition from existential despair to a 12-foot drop onto a foam mat.
Adept transition. That's the key phrase, isn't it? They aren't measuring the quality of the despair or the athleticism of the drop in isolation. They're measuring the smoothness of the psychological and physical switch between these two highly disparate activities.
Yes. It suggests a scoring system focused on cognitive and physical fluidity under pressure, the speed and efficiency of the bandwidth shift.
So for an actor to receive praise for this transition, it means they seamlessly shifted from internal contemplation of mortality, articulated perfectly,
To the immediate muscular coordination and spatial awareness required for a controlled 12-foot fall.
it's a level of controlled elasticity you'd expect from, I don't know, a trapeze artist who also happens to have a doctorate in classical literature.
The score is for psychological readiness to execute disparate commands without cognitive friction.
But even with that flawless, gravity-defying transition, points were still deducted.
Of course.
Where did the actor, who survived the filing cabinet demogorgon and the harness soliloquy, fall short? They were docked points for insufficient weeping during the alive or dead climax.
This is perhaps the single most revealing detail about Netflix's definition of narratively essential performance metrics.
Insufficient weeping.
It means that while they demand the high art of Shakespeare, they are scoring the result using the lowest common denominator of emotional display: visible, measurable tears.
Wait, let's fully dissect this.
Yeah.
The speech is Hamlet's contemplation of suicide-profound existential dread. So the deeper intellectual despair of that contemplation is irrelevant if the physical, verifiable symptom of despair weeping is not present in sufficient quantifiable volume.
It indicates a focus on surface-level, streamable emotional impact, regardless of textual nuance.
They're treating the actor's tears as a visual effect.
A human CGI that must meet a predefined, measurable volume threshold. The performance is judged not by the depth of the thought, but by the quantity of the waterworks.
They want the raw feeling, but they want it to be quantifiable and easily captured by the camera.
So the actor must weep not because the text organically demands a breakdown at that specific point, but because the script dictates that the audience should see the distress.
This audit confirms that the Netflix audition mandate is not really about discovering great actors.
No.
It is about engineering a multi-talented workforce that can deliver high-level stunts and emotionally measurable visual impact while requiring minimal specialized support staff.
Exactly. The weeping is not existential. It's a mandated special effect. It is the quantification of vulnerability for the camera.
Moving now to segment 4, the industry reaction and the corporate cleanup. This document, once it leaked, clearly sent shockwaves, leading to some intense industry insider speculation.
Insiders immediately viewed this mandate not just as a financial maneuver, but as a direct, aggressive reaction to excessive star power and escalating salaries. By demanding all actors be capable of this extreme performance spectrum, the studio effectively diminishes the negotiating power of highly paid specialized stars, who often rely on their massive insurance writers and, the availability of multiple stunt doubles.
It's a push to empower showrunners by creating an interchangeable labor force, actors who are, frankly, literally disposable in the short term.
Because the supply of self-insured, multi-skilled performers is theoretically infinite.
If everyone can do the stunt in the monologue, the power shifts back entirely to the production side. It makes actors interchangeable based solely on their injury tolerance and ability to compartmentalize trauma.
And this raises a critical speculative question for the talent market. What specific type of performer does this produce? It forces a strange new equilibrium. Will it benefit action stars who can barely read, forcing them into literature boot camps?
Or will it benefit Shakespearean actors who can barely run, forcing them into parkour training? The new mandate demands both skill sets equally.
It creates a starkly bifurcated talent market. Those few who are still insured and astronomically expensive, the legacy stars.
And the vast pool of hopefuls who are multi-skilled, disposable, and cheap. The former is a financial liability. The latter is the ideal lean operating model employee.
The implication for talent is devastating. You must be able to deliver the high-octane physical performance of an action star combined with the intellectual depth of a seasoned theater veteran.
If you lack one, the other is insufficient.
It is designed as the ultimate filtering mechanism, reducing the viable talent pool to a microscopic fraction, thereby simplifying casting choices for the executives.
Now we must discuss Section 4.2, Netflix's calculated denial. This is high-level corporate spin management at its absolute finest.
Yes. The source material confirms that a Netflix spokesperson issued a flat denial of the memo's authenticity.
Standard corporate procedure when internal documents detailing potentially illegal, union-violating, or highly embarrassing practices get leaked.
You deny the document's existence to manage public relations and minimize immediate legal exposure under labor laws.
But here's the crucial caveat that immediately follows, which functionally validated the core absurdity of the entire memo and makes the denial utterly meaningless. The spokesperson's follow-up comment was, "We would never require both a monologue and a stunt."
Unless it's for a Scorsese project.
Exactly.
This instantly undermines the official denial. By adding the specific Scorsese clause, the spokesperson is acknowledging that the policy itself exists, even if its general application to, say, a romantic comedy is currently being denied.
So the only difference is the context in which this extreme measure is deemed acceptable, shifting it from cost-cutting to artistic necessity.
Precisely.
Let's deconstruct the Scorsese clause. What makes a Scorsese project uniquely deserving of this full-spectrum mental and physical gauntlet? It's a fascinating exemption.
Well, the mention of Scorsese implies an inherent industry-wide understanding that his projects operate under a unique set of demands. A commitment, an authenticity, and crucially, a length of production that transcends normal industry standards.
A Scorsese project is often viewed as an extreme test of endurance, both physical and psychological.
Right, due to the intensely character-driven nature and the extended shooting schedules.
So maybe it implies a high likelihood of the actor needing to deliver a spontaneous emotional breakdown just due to the sheer relentless pressure and length of the schedule.
That high level of artistic pressure is seen as the one acceptable justification for demanding both the classical rigor and the extreme physical risk.
In short, the clause suggests that the internal corporate culture views this mandate as an acceptable, albeit extreme, tool for achieving a perceived, uncompromised artistic vision.
And reserved only for the highest-tier directors known for demanding peak performance. If a visionary director requires the actor to risk injury and psychological collapse in the same breath,
the safety risk is deemed justifiable.
Because the artistic reputation attached to the project is high enough to generate prestige and awards buzz.
So the cost-saving measure suddenly becomes an artistic imperative only when the name Martin Scorsese is attached.
Right. If the project is merely a generic Gray Man 2 sequel, standard, though still low, safety precautions apply.
But if it's a 3.5-hour Martin Scorsese epic about existential dread and organized crime, the actor must immediately prove they can deliver Macbeth while dodging oncoming traffic.
It's a terrifying gradient of acceptable risk based purely on directorial reputation. It establishes two distinct yet equally demanding standards for actors. The standard for general, internal cost-cutting efficiency, and the standard for prestige cost-cutting.
And both involve the actor performing the stunt and the monologue. But only one is admitted publicly as a possibility, and only under the guise of artistic vision.
It's the highest form of corporate spin.
This has been a genuinely unsettling and detailed look behind the veil of corporate efficiency and artistic expectation in the streaming era. To synthesize the core takeaway for you, the listener, the entertainment industry, driven by the need to control runaway costs, is moving toward a highly efficient, single-performer pipeline.
The modern actor, under this mandate, is simultaneously the star, the stunt double, the method coach, the classical scholar, and, most critically, the sole holder of the insurance liability.
They're consolidating specialized labor roles into a single, high-risk individual unit.
Designed to maximize performance fluidity and minimize corporate oversight.
And remember, this entire insane
policy-demanding actors fight filing cabinets and weep while suspended in a harness, all started because of the escalating price of insuring one celebrity who already does his own stunts. So if the cost of a single major star's insurance rider is now dictating the fundamental safety standards and performance demands for the entire acting pool, what is the true, measurable human cost of artistic authenticity in the streaming age? That's the question we leave you to mull over. This has been the Scroll Report. Thank you for listening. Stay satirical.